That morning felt ordinary until one small look changed everything. The sun had just begun to spill through the kitchen window. Soft light, quiet house, coffee warming the air. From the outside, it looked like a perfect start, but inside that home, something fragile was unfolding. He was a boy of 10 years old, bright-eyed, curious, usually fearless. Yet that morning he stood frozen near the door, backpack on, shoes tied, hands clenched. His mother noticed right away. Mothers always do. She asked him if he was ready. He didn't answer. She asked again, softer this time. Still nothing. Then she saw it. Fear, raw and unguarded. Not the kind that comes from a nightmare, not the kind that fades with a hug. This fear had weight, and it scared her more than she wanted to admit. She knelt down to his level, her voice calm, steady. "What's wrong?" she asked. He swallowed hard. "I don't want to go," he whispered. The words were small, but they landed heavy. School was never a problem before. He loved learning, loved people. So why now? She didn't rush him, didn't dismiss it. She waited. He stared at the floor, then finally looked up. "I'm scared I'll mess everything up," he said. His voice cracked. Her heart tightened. At 10 years old, he already carried fear of failure, fear of disappointing others. That wasn't something he was born with. That fear had been learned. She took a slow breath, trying not to show her worry. "Why do you feel that way?" she asked. He shrugged, eyes watering. "Everyone expects me to know what to do." That sentence lingered in the air, quiet, heavy. She realized something in that moment. She had taught him how to behave, how to be polite, how to succeed. But had she taught him how to fail? How to ask for help? He wasn't afraid of school. He was afraid of being alone in his mistakes. She pulled him into a gentle hug. Not tight, just enough. "You don't have to know everything," she said. "You're allowed to learn." He didn't respond right away, but his breathing slowed. Still, the fear didn't leave. It stayed, waiting. As they walked to the car, she replayed every moment, every rushed goodbye, every quick correction. She wondered how many times she had said, "You can do better," without saying, "It's okay to struggle." The drive was quiet, too quiet. At a red light, she glanced at him, his hands twisted in his lap. She wanted to fix everything right then, but guidance wasn't a speech. It was a journey, one she realized had already started. She dropped him off with a smile, but her chest felt tight as she watched him walk away. He turned back once, just once, and in his eyes she saw a silent question. "Will you help me when I don't know the way?" That question followed her all day. At home, the silence was louder. She sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched. She thought about guidance, real guidance, not control, not pressure, but presence. She understood then that love wasn't enough. Children needed direction, wrapped in patience. They needed permission to be unsure, to be human. By the time afternoon arrived, she had made a decision. Things would change, not overnight, but intentionally. She would listen more, correct less, guide instead of push. Yet deep down, she knew one thing. This steer didn't begin that morning, and it wouldn't end easily. Something bigger was waiting to surface, something that would challenge both of them, and she wasn't sure she was ready for it. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. That evening didn't bring relief. It brought reflection. The house filled with familiar sounds, a door closing, water running, a clock ticking. But her mind stayed stuck on that look, the one her son gave before walking into school. At dinner, she watched him carefully, the way he pushed food around his plate. He smiled when spoken to, answered politely, yet something was missing. The ease, the spark. She asked about his day. He said it was fine. One word. Safe. Guarded. She didn't push. Not this time. After dishes were done, she sat beside him on the couch. No questions. Just presence. He leaned slightly toward her, a small movement, but meaningful. The television murmured in the background. Neither of them really watched. She remembered being his age, remembered feeling lost but pretending not to be. That memory stirred something deep, a quiet regret. She had always wanted him to be confident, strong, independent. Somewhere along the way, that message twisted. It became pressure. She turned the television off. The room fell quiet. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "When I was your age," she began, "I was scared a lot too." He looked at her then, surprised. "I thought grown-ups never felt scared," he said. She smiled gently. "That's not true at all." She told him about mistakes she made, times she felt unsure. She didn't dramatize it. She kept it honest. His shoulders relaxed, just a little. "I thought I was the only one," he said. That sentence hurt, and healed at the same time. "No," she replied. "You're never the only one." That night she tucked him into bed more slowly than usual. She stayed longer. As she turned off the light, he asked quietly, "Will you help me if I mess up tomorrow?" Her throat tightened. "Yes," she said. "Always." He nodded. But fear doesn't disappear in a single promise. Later, alone in her room, she reflected again. Guidance wasn't about answers. It was about walking beside him, even when the path felt unclear. The next morning came faster than expected. The same light, the same kitchen. But the energy felt different, intentional. She didn't rush him, didn't remind him of expectations. Instead, she asked how he was feeling, not what he needed to achieve. "I'm still nervous," he admitted. "That's okay," she said. "We can be nervous together." They laughed softly, a small release. On the drive to school, she shared one simple idea. You don't have to be perfect, just present. He repeated the words quietly, like a shield. At the school gate, he hesitated again, but this time he didn't freeze. He turned to her, eyes searching. She nodded, a silent promise. He walked in. She stayed parked for a moment, watching children disappear behind doors. She wondered how many of them carried invisible fears, how many felt unprepared. That day, she read about guidance, about listening, about emotional safety. But books only confirmed what her heart already knew. Connection came first. That afternoon, he came home quieter than usual, not sad, just thoughtful. They sat at the table together, homework untouched. "I didn't know the answer today," he said, and my face got hot. She waited, let him finish. "But then I remembered what you said," he continued, "and I asked for help." She smiled. Not wide, not loud, just proud. "How did that feel?" she asked. "Scary," she said, then better. That moment felt like progress, fragile but real. Yet she noticed something else, a hesitation. "There's more," she said gently. He nodded. "There's one thing I didn't tell you." Her chest tightened again. She leaned closer. Whatever it was, she sensed it mattered. A lot. And she knew this next truth might change everything, for both of them. He stared at the table for a long moment, as if the wood grain held answers. She didn't rush him. Silence had become a language between them. "There's a boy in my class," he finally said. "He laughs when people get things wrong." Her jaw tightened, but her voice stayed calm. That must feel hard. He nodded. I think he's waiting for me to mess up. The fear from that morning suddenly made sense. It had a face now. Not a villain, just a child carrying his own confusion. Still, the impact was real and heavy. She chose her words carefully. Guidance mattered most in moments like this. Do you think his laughter is about you, she asked, or about how he feels inside? He frowned. I don't know. That's okay, she said. Sometimes people laugh to hide their own fear. He considered that. His shoulders eased slightly. She didn't tell him to ignore it, didn't tell him to be strong. Instead, she offered something different. Understanding. It's okay to feel hurt, she said, and it's okay to ask for help when it happens. That night, he slept faster than usual, but she stayed awake. She thought about how often adults dismissed small hurts, how easily fear was minimized. She promised herself not to do that, not anymore. The next few days became an experiment in patience. She asked open questions. She listened without correcting. She praised effort, not outcomes. Slowly, he began to open, sharing thoughts he had never named before. He talked about pressure, about wanting to be good. Not the best, just good enough to belong. One afternoon, he came home with a folded paper in his pocket. He handed it to her carefully. It was a note from his teacher. Not bad, not glowing, just honest. It said he hesitated to speak in class, but showed strong thinking when encouraged. She read it twice, then smiled. That evening, she showed him the note. What do you think this means? She asked. He shrugged. That I'm quiet. It also means you think deeply, she said, and that's a strength. He looked unconvinced, but thoughtful. The following week brought a small change, one she almost missed. During breakfast, he corrected her gently about a fact, then froze. He waited for disapproval, for tension. She smiled instead. Thank you for catching that, she said. His eyes widened, just for a second. That moment mattered more than any lecture. It showed him safety. At school, progress came slowly, but it came. He raised his hand once, then twice. Not confidently, but bravely. One afternoon, he came home with red cheeks, not from fear, from excitement. I answered a question, he said, and I got it wrong. She waited, heart racing. And? She asked. No one laughed, he said, and even if they did, I think I'd be okay. That sentence stayed with her. It felt like a turning point. But growth isn't a straight line. She knew that. The following morning, he hesitated again at the door. The old fear flickered. She knelt beside him, eye to eye. What are you feeling? She asked. Worried, he said, but not stuck. She hugged him, not to protect, but to remind. As he walked toward the school entrance, she noticed the same boy from before, the one who laughed. Their eyes met briefly. Then her son looked away. But this time, he kept walking. Steady. She felt pride rise at her chest. Soft, quiet. That evening, as they sat together, he asked a question she didn't expect. Do you think grown-ups still need guidance? She smiled. Yes, she said. All the time. He nodded slowly, like that answer mattered. What she didn't know then was that his next challenge wouldn't come from school. It would come from inside, from a choice he would soon face, one that would test everything they were learning together. And when that moment arrived, she would have to decide how much guidance was enough and how much trust to give. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains like a promise, but inside, her son carried a quiet tension she could feel from across the room. He was normally chatty on school mornings. This time, he barely spoke, only moving mechanically through his routine. Feeling okay? She asked softly. He nodded, but his eyes told a different story. On the way to school, he fidgeted in his seat, his small hands twisting the seatbelt, his eyes fixed on the passing trees, as if searching for answers in the leaves. "Mom," he finally said, "I think I might get a chance to be team captain for the science project." Her heart skipped. This was a big deal for him. The very idea brought both excitement and fear. "And?" she prompted, keeping her tone even. I really want it," he admitted, "but what if I mess up in front of everyone?" That familiar fear returned, sharper than before. But this time, she recognized it not just as worry, but as growth, because he was daring to try something new. "You know," she said, keeping her voice gentle, "being scared is okay. It means you care, and caring is important." He looked at her, eyes wide. "Really?" "Really," she said, squeezing his hand. "And even if you make mistakes, I'll be here, watching, helping if you need it." He drew a breath that seemed to carry the weight of a mountain, then exhaled slowly, almost like he was letting go of some of his fear. At school, she watched him walk toward the classroom door. He paused, turned back once, and smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a small curve of confidence, fragile but present. The day went on. She couldn't stop thinking about him, wondering how he was handling the challenge. Late afternoon came, and he returned home, cheeks flushed, eyes shining. She braced herself. Was it success or failure this time? I got it," he said quietly. Her chest lifted with relief and pride. "That's wonderful," she said. He beamed, but then a shadow crossed his face. "I was so scared. I thought I'd mess up right in front of everyone." She nodded. "That's normal," she said. "Being brave doesn't mean you aren't afraid. It means you do it anyway." He smiled faintly. "But there was one moment," he continued, hesitating. "When I was explaining my idea, a kid laughed." Her stomach tightened. She had hoped he wouldn't face that yet. "And?" she prompted. "I took a breath," he said, and kept talking. "I remembered what you said." He paused, pride shining through fear. I think I can handle this, even if it happens again." She felt a swell of emotion. He was learning to navigate the world with courage and self-trust, to accept mistakes without letting them define him. That night, they sat at the kitchen table, lights dim, homework and science notes spread before them. She listened as he recounted every detail of the day, every fear, every little victory. She didn't correct him, didn't lecture, just listened, guided gently with questions when needed. When he finally lay down to sleep, he turned to her. "Mom, thank you," he whispered. "For what?" she asked, heartful. "For helping me believe I can do it, even when I'm scared." She kissed his forehead softly. "It's always my job to help you believe. You just have to let me in." As she closed the door behind her, she realized something profound. Guidance wasn't just about directing him. It was about walking beside him, teaching him to trust himself, even when fear showed up. But she also knew that life would continue testing him, and one day, the fear wouldn't be about school or laughter. It would be about choices, responsibility, and independence. And when that day came, the lessons they were building now would matter more than anything. A soft knock at her bedroom door made her pause. She hadn't expected anyone. Her son's voice whispered, shaky but determined, "Mom, can I ask you something else? Something big?" Her heart raced. She had a feeling this question might change everything they had worked for. She opened the door slowly, heart pounding with anticipation. Her son stood there, small but resolute, holding a folded piece of paper. "Mom, I need help with something," he said, voice trembling. "Something big." She nodded, kneeling to meet his eyes. "Tell me," she whispered. He took a deep breath, then unfolded the paper. It was a letter, handwritten by him, addressed to the school principal. I want to try out for the student council," he said, voice barely audible. His hands shook as he held the paper. I know I'll have to speak in front of everyone, and I'm scared, but I want to try anyway. Her chest tightened. The same fear that had haunted him that morning, the fear of failure, of judgment, was still there, but now it stood beside courage. "You're brave," she said softly, "and scared. That's okay. Both feelings can exist together." He looked at her, eyes wide. "But what if I fail?" She reached out, holding both his hands. "Then you'll try again, and I'll be here, every step. Failure isn't the end. It's part of learning, part of growing." He nodded slowly. A small smile appeared, fragile but real. I think I can do it, Mom." The next few days were a whirlwind. They practiced speeches together at the kitchen table, hearing him stumble over words and then correct himself, laughing when things went sideways, learning to recover. Every night she tucked him in with gentle reminders. Being nervous means you care. Being brave means you act anyway. And the morning of the announcement, he hesitated at the door, but she knelt and looked him in the eyes. "You are ready," she said, "and I trust you." At school, he stepped into the room with a steady breath. The fear was there, but so was determination. He spoke clearly, answering questions thoughtfully. He stumbled once, then smiled, remembered her words, and kept going. By the end of the day, he came home glowing. He hadn't won the position he hoped for, but the look in his eyes was different, unshakable. "I did it," he said proudly. "I faced it, and I didn't run away." She hugged him tightly, feeling the weight of those 10-year-old shoulders lift. "It doesn't matter what they chose," she said. "What matters is that you faced your fear and tried. That's the real victory." He leaned back, smiling. "Mom, thank you for everything." She kissed his forehead gently, tears threatening to fall. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "You'll have fears your whole life, but now you know you don't have to face them alone." That night, she sat quietly in the kitchen, coffee untouched. She thought about how much he had grown in such a short time, how fear could have held him back, and how guidance, gentle, patient, loving guidance, had helped him rise above it. She realized something profound. Raising a child wasn't about controlling every step. It was about walking beside them, teaching them to trust themselves, and showing them that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to move forward anyway.